Because so many people, they've done it before. They prayed, they fasted, and during their fasting, they heard God saying something. And they thought that God was talking to them during the fast. No. If you look at God, He's a character that is not motivated by prayer and fasting. He doesn't do certain things because you have prayed. He allows you to realize certain things because you have prayed. Let's say God has spoken and His word is hanging somewhere in the atmosphere and you are operating below the spoken word. It means God has said everything about you. He has already said it. It is in an environment where you are not. The moment you begin to fast, you pray, you seek the face of God, it is your level that is elevated. And you enter into a dimension where you have the word of God spoken. And you begin to hear as if God is talking to you now. What is the reason why many people during prayer and fasting, they hear God? It's not really because God is talking to them there and there. God was trying to communicate, but they were not in that dimension where they can receive. So fasting, praying, studying of the Word of God, it's a fine-tuning. You are connecting yourself to the frequency of God, where you can begin now to hear, but you hear it as if God is talking to you now, and yet He has already said it. Your word is already settled in heaven, oh God. God already has got a laid out plan for your life. He has already spoken about you. Your name has been mentioned. And what you have to do in life is already known. But the reason why you can't hear God talking to you now, it is because you are operating below the level of the voice. Many people, they've heard God talking to them about certain businesses. Some, they've heard God talking to them about getting into ministry. Some, they've heard from God about marrying a certain individual. God has spoken to people about so many things. I've seen men of God that God has spoken to, and God gave them some promises. That if you follow me, if you get into ministry, this is what you're going to see happening. And they saw themselves doing some extraordinary things. They saw visions. They would go to sleep. They would see miracles happening in dreams. And they were so much convinced that God was inviting them to come for the work of the ministry. So they responded by way of becoming men of God. And majority of them, they've never seen any of those dreams coming to pass. And they begin to live a life of wondering, how come I heard God, I saw what I was going to do, but now I can't do any of those things? It appears as if now God has lied to you. He doesn't lie. But what you saw, remember what you were doing. Remember the atmosphere that you had created. You had elevated yourself to a level where God said, if you remain here, this is what you will begin to do. Please get this. Some of you pray for business opportunities, right? And then during that prayer, you see yourself receiving a lot of money. And then when you wake up now, you are now disconnected from the lifestyle of prayer. And you get into business and you don't realize what you have seen in your dream. And it appears as if God was lying to you. No, He wasn't lying to you. He was just telling you that if you maintain this level in the spirit, I've spoken to you, not from any other level. You were praying, you were fasting, you were now at a very high level. And it was from that level where I spoke to you and I said, from this level, these are the miracles that you'll be able to do. This is the amount of money that you'll be able to make from this level. And most people, they begin to lose that altitude. They come down, they no longer pray, they no longer fast, and they start doing business. They start doing ministry. So anything that God says to you, check your altitude and don't lose it. When you lose it, you lose every promise that you received from God at that level. Have you ever seen yourself doing something that you have never done before in a dream? Let me see your hand if you're here. You saw yourself doing something, or maybe in a certain place you have never been there, or maybe you saw yourself holding money that you have never handled before. It was just in a dream and you never saw it again physically. Let me see your hand if you're here. Almost like everyone. So this is what is now critical. We're talking about a strategy now. This is what is critical. One thing that you can not recall, you can remember the dream, but you cannot recall the atmosphere, the spiritual atmosphere. What was it like? What were you doing during those days? What was your prayer life like? And by losing that lifestyle, you lose every promise that was given to you at that level. So you have to develop a character, make it a daily thing that you have to look into the Word of God, study the Word of God. If you can't do that by yourself, that's why we are there to help you. You listen to messages like these ones. You empower your spirit on a daily basis. When you are driving, you are listening to what God is saying. Make sure you fast. And make sure you give.